Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Fake Check here, and welcome back to the Four Corners Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Clam79. How are you doing?
Hey, clam it up.
Nice. So hopefully we can just get through all these topics in a clam show like normal. That's getting a little old now, me using your joke. I may just give that to you from now on.
Thanks. That'll help me out.
All right, so today we are going to jump into our wrestling blurb as for normal. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and mention that in this podcast, in case any of you guys are viewing for the first time, we discuss comics, video games, TV shows, movies, and we throw a little bit of wrestling in there as well. And we have the podcast now available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and more. So, and we're going to get the podcast up to YouTube as quick as we can, but you guys have them on all those other platforms so that you can watch at your leisure. And I'm going to let Clam get us started with our wrestling blurb for the day.
Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. So we had a lot of great wrestling actually go on this past weekend and even Monday and Tuesday night as well. Well, a little bit on Tuesday night. So this past weekend we had the King of Pro Wrestling event out of New Japan Wrestling. Bunch of great matches on there. But for me, what was really fun to watch was Kenny Omega, Ibushi, and Cody three-way. If you're a fan of being the elite, you'll really enjoy this three-way. Maybe some of the New Japan purists may not have liked it, but I thought it was really good. Some of the other events that happened during that show, the Bullet Club Firing Squad picked up a new member, actually two new members with Gedo and Switchblade Jay White, as well as Los Ignoberales de Japon, adding the recent DragonGate star. Exactly, I know. God bless me, right? The recent DragonGate star, Shingo Takagi. I messed that one up, so I'm sure about that. Do apologize. So had two of the big groups there get some new members. And then we even had Chris Jericho make another surprise return. He showed up, he attacked Evil and set up their next pay-per-view, I guess on November 4th, I believe was the date. There's an awesome poster floating around that's got Jericho's head and it says I am evil on the top of it. So it's just awesome.
Chris Jericho loves his surprise appearances. First All In and now this.
Exactly. That's what he loves to do. He loves to keep everybody guessing. And you know what? He's making wrestling interesting. There was some WWE action this past weekend in Australia, but honestly, it just really felt like a 4-hour Raw, so not much of it stood out. Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy had a great match for the Cruiserweight title during that show. And then on Tuesday night, Becky and Charlotte had a great match. They essentially went to a Broadway, a double count out and set up their pay-per-view match for Evolution. All right, so we're going to put wrestling now back in its clamshell, and we're going to move over to comics. The comic that I read this week was the one that everyone was talking about, Batman Damned, #1. Hey, I'm sorry, normally this is a family-friendly channel. This is actually the title of the book, so not trying to slide in anything there. Jake, can you tell us the synopsis of what this book is supposed to be about there? And then I'll go into some of the stuff everybody's been talking about it.
All right, so as hard as this may be for some of you comic readers, especially the older comic readers, to actually believe, the Joker is dead. There's not really any doubt about it. There's no denying it. But whether Batman finally, snapped that scrawny neck of his, or some other thing happened in Gotham, did the dirty deed, is still a problem. Batman really can't remember, and the more he digs into the case, the more his mind kind of starts to doubt everything that he's uncovering. So who better to set him straight than John Constantine, the Hellblazer? So one problem with this book, too, is as much as John loves a good mystery, he loves messing with people's heads even more. So with Constantine's help, the pair get into this sordid underbelly of Gotham as they race toward the mind-blowing truth of who actually murdered the Joker. And one thing that this actually reminds me of, being a longtime fan of the Arkham games, was at the end of Arkham City, Joker is actually dead, and at first, when you start to see hallucinations of the character towards the beginning of Batman Arkham Knight, Batman kind of doubts what's real around him, and then towards the end, it gets to a sort of Joker hallucination overload, to where it appears on screen that he's actually killed the Joker, but that's just in his mind. His mind is kind of snapped there, so I love how they kind of related the two, and those who have played the Arkham games will, I think, make that connection. So that was a good tie-in for them. Clam, I know you haven't played them as much, but you did see some of the key parts of that story, so I'm sure you can see the connection there.
Exactly. One of the biggest things about this book is DC has started to do what they're calling a black label, and essentially it's trying to combine what Marvel did with their Max line. It's not as gratuitous or as vulgar as the Max line. Granted, there's something else we're going to talk about here that just makes that sound like a joke, but it's also seemingly like it may be very much like Elseworlds, but I guess they don't like calling it Elseworlds anymore. Maybe Elseworlds has a bad stigma and doesn't equal good sales, and Black Label and Dirty and Gritty is something that they can get some better sales off of. Apparently, the writers have kind of carte blanche. They don't have to worry about canon in these stories.
If what you say is
So
crossover is in trouble.
exactly. So one of the big controversy about this is, they didn't really look through these books before they sent them out, or well, DC is now saying that we didn't check them as well. There's actually full frontal nudity in this first book. Now, before you go out and look for it, unless you got one of those first prints, you're not going to see it because everything online it's been censored already. All the reprints are being censored, so you're not exactly going to see it there, but it's kind of disturbing because it casts light on the book for the wrong reasons. The book should have been, very interesting because it is quite an interesting story. I don't want to give spoilers here. I want you guys to go out and read it. That's why we read the synopsis. It's an interesting book. I'll let you decide for yourself whether you like which way they're going with it or not. It was definitely an interesting read, and it was the first time I've been kind of wrapped in a story in a while, especially with Batman, because I love Batman, but a lot of his books are, carbon copy anymore. You insert this here, you do this there, and it's
They
just got
read.
a different title on the front of it.
And one thing too that you had brought up about that book getting kind of the spotlight casted on it for the wrong reason. I don't know about any of you guys, but when I open a comic book, certain body part showing is not what I look for. So whether or not that's there, it does not really matter to me. I don't think it's needed in a comic book to send any type of message. I mean, it's not sending that type of message is not the purpose of a comic book.
Exactly. Now, the artwork in the book is really good. It's a little grittier for my take, but once you start seeing some of the other people, of course, we've already mentioned that Constantine is a book. He shows up pretty quickly. There's a few other surprises in the book. So the artwork itself is pretty good. It was a little odd the way that the wording was placed throughout the layout, but it doesn't really take away from it. So it's still a good book, still definitely interesting to read, and it's provoking some conversation. Hopefully now that's not provoking the wrong conversation. Now it's provoking, where's this storyline going? What are they doing? Is Joker really dead? What happened? Who did it? So that was really neat, but at least DC has been backpedaling for this. They're trying to say, oh, there was some publishing errors and some things. They don't want to say that, hey, we didn't look at this before we said push it to market, and now they're having to backpedal for it, is essentially what happened. So for the rest of the black labels, then they're now going to have an extra level of scrutiny on there because DC is playing the PR party with them. But there we have it there with comics. Batman Damn #1, check it out. #2 comes out in November, so you got plenty of time to get caught up before this really goes along. And that will take us right over into our TV shows. Jake, what do we got in TV shows this week?
In TV shows this week, we only have one topic because we didn't want to let this topic go ignored. In celebration of Arrow Season 7, which actually premieres next week, October 15th, Monday on the CW at 8 o'clock. Mark that on your calendar. So, Arrow Season 7 released, or not Arrow Season 7. The CW released a sizzle reel for Arrow Season 7 earlier last week, or I'm not sure what day it was, sometime ago. But it was kind of a small trailer just celebrating that the show was back. One thing I've noticed with these shows, too, before we dive into it, so as far as I know, the other shows don't get sizzle reels like this. Arrow is really the only one that gets the treatment of a full trailer, maybe because it's the granddaddy of all the CW shows, and it's kind of like the Iron Man 1 of the DC TV verse, so it kind of started it. Maybe that's why it gets the full treatment. But just diving into the sizzle and what my thoughts are on it, really, it didn't give us. It gave us half of old footage and what we've seen before, and half of some new added scenes. It finally showed us what's become of Curtis, who was Mr. Terrific. He doesn't seem to actually be a vigilante anymore. His words in the trailer, I'm paraphrasing here, he says, my days in the field were over the day Oliver went to prison. So it kind of seems like even though people like Renee and Dinah are taking on Oliver's message to heart and what he said at the end of season 6 with I want my allies to keep fighting, it seems like Renee and Dinah are kind of taking that to heart, because you see Renee in some trailers teaching youngsters to fight. You see Dinah keeping on her duties as a Star City police officer, but you see Curtis not being active as a vigilante and actually following the law, which is definitely something new for our fellow Team Green Arrow. And speaking of Green Arrow, you actually see some more shots of the quote-unquote fake Green Arrow, who we've said our suspicions about that before, and we may be right, we may not. Now, like I've said before, it's my understanding that this could be a multitude of people, but the one that I think is the most likely, and leaving the fact that this is an obvious answer aside, I feel like it is Roy Harper under that hood, just because I feel in a sense of story it would make sense, because it would be that, DC story of, sidekick takes over, the leader role and dons his mentor's uniform. They've had it before with Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, who have both donned the mantle of Batman, and you had Miles Morales, who became Spider-Man. So for the sake of the show and also for a comic book sake, this would make sense to me. Though if it's someone like a longbow hunter who's trying to ruin Oliver's reputation, I can see that being a possibility as well. You see a little bit of Diaz, who is still trying to continue his criminal activities, and you also see Felicity still trying to get revenge against Diaz for everything that got taken from her and Oliver, because it's really because of Diaz that Oliver is in prison in the first place. You see a small clip of the longbow hunters, 2 of them at least. You see Red Dart, who is the woman in red with the wrist Black Widow style dart on her. And you see what I believe is Kodiak. I'm not sure if it's Kodiak or Silencer. I believe it is Kodiak, the one that has the Guardian style shield in the trailer. You see Laurel and Anatoly also acting with the rest of Team Arrow, even though they're not really Team Arrow anymore. They're kind of disbanded because vigilantes are outlawed at this point in the show. But I am definitely excited to see where the series goes from here, because season 6 people were really divisive on, but I think the second half especially got much stronger as it went along, and they focused less on the whole Oliver and Son angle like people were scared of at the start. Clam, I know you were one of those. And I think the show just got a lot better, and it's got a new show writer now. This is actually rumored to be the darkest season, and that's really going to be a testament if they can pull it off to be the darkest season, because my personal favorite season was season 5, and that was so far the darkest season of the show. But one thing that I just love about this is the fact that Green Arrow, while he may not normally be a dark and brooding character, what made this show successful, I think, was the darker tone that they went into. It may not necessarily work for the character of Green Arrow, but the tone works for this show. And that's why I think that going back down this darker road like they did in the earlier seasons will actually prove successful for the show. Clam, you have any thoughts?
Definitely interested for it. Excited for this season. I'm mainly excited to see when Cody is going to show up, because Cody is going to show up as Derek Sampson, and we also got Bullet Tooth Tony or Vinny Jones showing back
Vinny
up.
Jones.
Oh gosh, what's the character that Vinny's playing again? What's his name in there?
Daniel
It's Brickwell. Yes, that's right. So every time I see him, he's Bullet Tooth Tony to me. For anybody that's watched the old Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, That's all I ever remember him as. And granted, he's played in so many
Also,
roles, but I
he's
just
also the
love seeing
Juggernaut
him
in
there.
that terrible X-Men Last Stand film.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that one up there. So, and guys, we do know that The Flash started this season or started their season already. And we just hate to say it that we've got a couple episodes to catch up to be caught up with the show. And then we'll be able to do a little bit of a recap there. But we're trying to figure out if you guys want to hear breakdowns of the show or if you just want to hear previews. So we don't want to give away too many spoilers if you don't want to hear them, as we're going to have in a review here in just a moment. So we'll kind of get some feedback from you guys what you like. If you like the breakdowns more, if you like kind of the what if discussions, or if you like the previews. Hey, what's coming up? What did somebody else think of that, trailer that dropped or that preview that dropped?
And one thing that I'm going to try to start doing when Arrow comes back next week is reactions to the episodes / mini reviews. So I'm going to have a small reaction to the parts of the episode that I think stood out, as well as my overall thoughts at the end. So I hope you guys will enjoy those. I'm sure it's going to encounter a large obstacle, that being the breaks that CW loves so much and all of us fans hate, because it puts months between episodes and makes us bite our nails in anticipation.
Definitely. Where were they going to be able to find those at, Jake?
Oh, the reactions, you mean?
Exactly. Where can they find
them? Well, you can
them?
also find the reactions on YouTube. If you want to go to youtube.com/theFakeJake, you can find them there. I'll be making a Arrow Season 7 reactions playlist, so you can look forward to that as they start to come up. I wish I could say, again, I hate to say this, what Clam said, we are not entirely caught up on the other shows yet. It's possible that I can start reactions to those late if that's what you guys would like, but Arrow is actually the only show that we are currently caught up with.
Very good. And before we leave the DC universe, but moving over into movies, we do have some really cool news, and it was just released, and we were a day or two late getting the episode up. We had some recording difficulties, got a little bit of new software here, so hopefully this is going to make it better for us going forward. But it gave us some time to get some more news. And we come to find out that James Gunn of Guardian of Galaxy fame is moving over to DC, and he's going to be writing the next Suicide Squad and possibly even directing. So this was something that really got a lot of people excited. A lot of people, or many people, thought that that Suicide Squad was trying to copy Guardian's success to start with the catchy music and bringing along everyone the way they did. And now, I mean, they're just going to completely copy them. They're getting the source material.
Exactly. I mean, the only thing that would make it even more copying is if Dave Bautista decided to go work for DC.
I've actually already seen that he has said that he would definitely go over with Gunn. So I can't remember that, so I can't source it exactly. But Bautista, of course, has been the one who's been most vocal about Gunn's firing, and I think he would go anywhere that he could get in there and work with him.
As much as he dominates the role of Drax, I think he plays the role so well. But I think after the whole controversy with James Gunn getting fired, that's a story for another day. We won't get into that right now. But I don't think.
Correct, but it would be fun to figure out who he'll play in DC if he does get to go over there. So that'll be quite interesting. But what was our big movie news that we had over the weekend? What did we go get to see?
We got to see Venom, which was a very good movie. We went and saw it and liked it. I admit that we were both skeptical about how this was going to be, because it's not really something we've seen before, to where a villain gets, the lead role, and this being one of the most popular Spider-Man villains and probably Marvel villains or characters of all time, it's really, it was nerve-wracking to me about how this movie would be, and not including something like Spider-Man, and also taking into account how poorly received Venom's last on-screen appearance was in Spider-Man 3 back in 2007. So I was a little scared about how this would play off, but I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Now, there were some things that, it wasn't perfect. No movie is, but...
No, it wasn't. But like you mentioned, I had such low expectations that I thought the movie was rated R. I had not looked into it. I walked into it thinking it was rated R, and I saw the PG-13 on on the poster outside. I was like, really? Okay. And now, after sitting there watching some of it, and we're going to try and keep this spoiler free for now. We can do a breakdown of it later. But there is a fair amount of language in the movie, a little bit more than maybe I would expect for a PG-13 movie. But maybe
Good
I'm
amount
just
of
an old
violence
prude.
too.
But it was kind of hard seeing like the 2 or 3 kids, literal kids, like anywhere from 2 to 6, sitting a couple seats from us with some of the language that was going on, and Venom running around biting people's heads off. I'm not giving anything away there. They showed that on the
Yes,
previews.
there was a row of kids
So-
right in front of us, and every time that I could tell a bad moment was happening, I just kind of looked down at the row in front of us, ready for like a surprise reaction, and they were going nuts.
Yeah, but it was also 3 boys, so they were having fun as it was. So it was a little bit different there. Now the movie, like I said, it definitely surprised me. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Tom Hardy did he did good. It was a different take on it, and I think they do pretty good at setting Venom up as his own, standalone character. Everybody was worrying, how's he going to fit in this universe? How's he going to fit in that? How's he going to fit there? And pretty much what they did with the movie is said, we don't care. We're not going to fit anywhere. We're making a movie. And I kind of liked how they took that approach instead of trying to fit it in anywhere or do
That was
any
like
other.
what Marvel did with the first Iron Man. They weren't trying to tie it to anything. They just made a movie.
Exactly. It's a Marvel movie, so there's a Stan Lee cameo, and it's hilarious when you get to it. Not going to ruin it for you. Another non-spoilerish thing, but if you guys do go to see it after you're hearing this, make sure you stay through the credits. There are 2 separate scenes.
End.
And so we're going to establish a rating system for our movie reviews on the podcast here, and we'll probably move us over into the YouTube channel as well. But everybody's got their out of 10 and out of 5 or whatever here. We're going to have our system, and this is the way it's going to go. 2 thumbs up is going to be outstanding, a must-see movie. 1 thumb up will be great fun. It's recommended. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. Or kind of the wiggly hand there. That's a little so-so. It could have been worse.
Judgment whether or not you want to see it.
So the 1 thumb down, that's going to be, hey, this was hard to watch. There's a lot of things wrong with this.
And then we have Catwoman and Elektra having a double featurette.
So if you can just imagine how bad that would be, there are some movies out there like that. And we're going to give our reviews separately. I'm going to let Jake go ahead and do his review. I'll do mine. We haven't sit here and actually talked about what we're going to do. So, Jake,
I will give
what did
Venom
you
a solid 1 thumb up. It's not perfect. It's not amazing by enemies. What? No, Venom is the enemy by any means. But it was a solid movie. It did exceed my expectations, and it did get me excited for a sequel. So I will give it a solid 1 thumb up.
I completely agree. I wanted to try and do like a 1.5 thumb up, and then I said, no, we can't just bring out a new system and then break it on the first day. So I definitely agree. 1 thumb up. I enjoyed the movie. I was pleasantly surprised, and it was a constant reminder that movie critics are not comic book fans. So if you're hearing people talk about, the critics said it sucked. Well, that's because the critics don't read comic books and they don't really follow this, so it's not made for them to start with.
It is made, it says in association with Marvel Comics, it's made for people that read Marvel Comics.
While we're still in the Spider-Man world, Venom, Spider-Man,
to jump
all of those characters.
Into the Spider-Verse, pun intended.
Exactly. Into the Spider-Verse is coming out in December. I can't remember if it's coming out at Christmas or early December. We do have a React video online at youtube.com/TheFakeJake under our Reacts playlist. You'll be able to find it there.
It comes out a little bit before Aquaman. So, Marvel gets their big hits throughout the year, and then DC tries to push out something, although we will talk about Aquaman another day.
Yeah, actually, Aquaman's going to be next week. I want to break apart that trailer, but that's a 5-minute trailer, so we'll do that next week.
Going back into Spider-Verse, I was actually pleasantly surprised with this trailer. One thing that I especially loved, being someone who grew up with the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I loved how in some of those scenes in the trailers they were paying homage to that. Like there was a shot of Spider-Man. It pretty much took some of the shots from those movies and animated them. It showed the stopping the train scene from Spider-Man 2 that everyone loves. It showed the iconic upside down kiss scene from the first movie. And that just small segment, if that and more of paying homage is in the movie, then I'm going to be one happy fan, because I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and we're not going to get into a whole debate of which one is better because I want to keep this, I don't want to have this be an hour-long podcast, but one thing that I also loved in the trailer.
Time is just time. If it's good product or if it's good content, we're going to keep going with it.
Yeah. But one thing that they did in the trailer that I really loved was the fact that they included a lot of different Spider-Man, not just the ones that people are used to either, the ones that have just read a little bit of comics. I mean, they included, and I can say this because the movie's not out yet, so this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer. They included Spider-Gwen. They included Noir Spider-Man. I think I'm saying that right. Noir, one of the two. They also included, and this is the most hilarious thing ever, Spider-Ham, which is, for some of you hardcore Marvel fans, is pretty much a little pig version of Spider-Man with his own suit, and it's the funniest thing. They even put that into some books, and even one episode of that less than great Ultimate Spider-Man show from a couple years ago. So just the fact that they're paying homage to some of the completely out of left field things like that really made me smile, because they went in some directions I wasn't expecting, but it showed you just by how ridiculous everything was that they weren't afraid to go in those directions.
Yeah, I'm finally happy with this movie that Miles Morales is going to get at least put out a little bit more into the
Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, but also into the public.
Sure.
A lot of people know of him, but he hasn't got a chance to be in a movie yet. So this at least gets him out there. Hopefully it'll drum up a lot of interest. I like his character. I like what they've done with him. I like some of the alternate universes that they're going into. Spider-Gwen was really kind of cool. It's kind of odd. It makes me wonder, the Peter that they show, he looks like all kind of ragged and like he hadn't shaved, and it makes me wonder if he's the 616 Spider-Man or a different Spider-Man. So it's very interesting to figure out which one that one is. He says he's Peter Parker, but hey, there's a lot of Peter Parkers, especially if you're talking into Marvel universes here. So that's going to be neat to see which one that is. Also seeing how I'm hoping that it looks like that Miles is going to get a nice chunk of the movie, so there's going to be some focus put on him, and it just looks fun, and I can't believe that it's kind of neat getting excited about animated movies getting released in the theater. DC used to do great with their animated movies, but they were straight to DVD. So this is kind of neat, knowing this is actually coming out to the theater. Going to be able to go and see it in the theater, not just wait for it to come on DVD, and get more eyes on the product there.
I agree. And actually, speaking of DC animated movies, we're going to dive into this a little more next time, but I just want to throw it in really quickly. There is actually one DC animated movie that is being re-released into theaters for one night, and that is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Now, I'm really excited for this because, Clam, just like you with Transformers, that is the movie that, you missed the opportunity to see in the theater but saw it afterward. Now, I feel that it is my turn because Mask of the Phantasm is a movie that I saw on DVD as well as TV that I did not get to see in the theater, and it is one of my favorite Batman movies ever. It's an amazing movie with great story. I won't spoil anything for you guys. I know it's a relatively old movie, but in case any of you guys have not seen it yet, I want to just say that it is being released into theaters for one night. That is November 12th, so mark that on your calendar. And I'm saying I won't spoil it just because if any of you guys have not seen it yet, I want you guys to experience that for the first time in the theater and just have the chance that Clam and I didn't have. And that was just really such an amazing movie, and I'm so glad for the chance to be able to see it in theater, but we'll dive into that more next time.
It's a fun movie. You can find that at fathomevents.com. And hey, I know we've mentioned this like with Transformers before. None of us work there at Fathom Events. I just think it's really cool that they're going back and re-releasing some of these older movies that a lot of people missed the chance to see in the theaters. Some of people weren't even alive whenever these movies came out in the theaters. So it's really kind of cool to have these opportunities and have these cool nights, because the one thing that was awesome when we went to Transformers, it was kind of like a StarCast buzz or All-In buzz, that everybody that was there was excited about the movie they were coming to see. Everybody was kind of giddy and excited about going in and talking to each other and actually interacting in the theater, not just, looking down and kicking around the spilled popcorn and maybe going over and getting a drink. Nobody was complaining. It was fun. And some of these even have free goodies at the beginning. They had some Transformers posters at the Transformers that we missed, but some friend of ours missed it or got them in another city. So this is something to look into because it's an event night. It's not something that's going to be playing the whole season. Get some friends together, get your significant other together, get your children. Batman the animated series, it's safe for kids. It was showing on, Fox, for goodness sakes, Fox TV, Fox Kids. So you can definitely go out and take this one in. If your kids already like Batman, this is a chance for you to go out and see something different, but make a night out of it. So it's an event. Definitely.
Could not put it any better myself. So we're going to jump over into our game section now. This is our last section of the night. And one thing I just want to say quickly is that we are still completing our YouTube walkthrough of Marvel's Spider-Man on the PS4. We're going to have a more thorough review soon, but just to say my general opinions on it now, I am loving the gameplay as well as the story is really intriguing me as well. It is a expansive story, and the fact that it's original and not based off of a comic or a movie is really a treat as well, because we haven't gotten something like that in such a long time. So I'm glad to see that something like that is existing in the game genre. And there is actually hints that this version could make an appearance in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, which I am very excited to see. And I know that if there's anyone watching that movie that has played this game, they're probably going to be all giddy, just like you mentioned, of the Transformers fans.
Gives it potential for the next game coming out or even another
movie coming
out afterwards.
Actually potential for this to turn into, its own Arkham series, essentially. And I would love to see that happen because Insomniac has started something great. Now, if they can just keep riding the train like Rocksteady did, then I think that will work nicely for them. Actually, segueing nicely onto our next game topic we have is actually
speaking of the Arkhamverse
game by Rocksteady. None of this is actually set in stone or confirmed yet, but I just want to talk about it because I'm a huge fan of the Batman Arkham games. And I want to talk about this game that is supposedly being worked on by Rocksteady, known as Batman Arkham Universe. Yeah, it's kind of a generic title there. But this was shown on Reddit. So, of course, whenever I go over leaks like this, or not really leaks, but just rumors or things that could happen, I say to you all, take this with a grain of salt. This could be the best thing ever, but it could be completely fake as well. So just take that for what it is. And for the moment, it is just a rumor, but I will read what we have here.
Some of the main points of it, we were talking about a little bit earlier, like who the main villain or the main villains are actually talked about being in this game. And that plays into one of the recent storylines with the Court of Owls. So it's a little bit more recent than some of the other stuff they've done, and how it's going to have so many characters of the Bat family. And from what I've seen, these are supposed to be playable
and also multiplayer. And these characters are also supposedly allowed in free roam, which is one of the biggest complaints of Arkham Knight, that only Batman was allowed to be a free roam character. Now, one thing that scares me a little bit, you fans of the Arkhamverse will probably remember this. Back in 2000, I want to say 16, about spring of 2016, there was a supposed new Arkham game being worked on by WB Montreal, who is the developer behind Batman Arkham Origins. And this rumor went on for a couple months, ended up getting delayed, and Warner Brothers was supposedly working on another Batman title for the longest time. That also ended up getting debunked. So the reason I'm a little nervous is because we've had a continuous cycle now of rumors of Batman games happening and then debunked. Rumor, debunked. So I'm hoping that this does not happen. But at the same time, looking at all this, it says characters include the entire Bat family. You have Batman, Robin, who's Tim Drake, Nightwing, Batgirl, Batwoman, who would be a new character in the Arkham series, Catwoman, and Red Hood. And it's supposed to be Rocksteady's true last hurrah of Batman games, although that's what people said about Arkham Knight 3 years ago.
Arkham Tanks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tank Man, Arkham Knight. Put it that way. Now, one thing that really there's two things. I don't really know where you can go from how Arkham Knight ended story-wise, because everyone thinks that the Batman is dead. The Bat family is still honoring Bruce's legacy, but kind of off on their own ways. So I don't really know how you can bring them together, let alone explain Batman's return. And just reading this article, and we will have it linked in the description when this podcast goes up on YouTube, it sounds like, at the same time, just reading it, it sounds like the best thing ever. But at the same time, you could look at this, and this could all very well be from an Arkham fan who just took everything that they wanted in a game and put it all up online and stated that it was a rumor. This could be completely an Arkham fanfic writer stating what they're writing about is a rumor. And that's what I'm slightly scared about. Though, if this rumor is true, and believe me, I'm not going to get my hopes up because I don't want to be disappointed. But if it is, great. If it's not, okay. But if it is true, then in this kind of post-Spider-Man PS4 world, Batman Arkham Universe would have to be, really special to stay relevant. Like, it would really have to give us months and months of replay value. And Arkham Knight gave that a fair shot. It gave us replay value for about, it released in June, and it had content going up all the way until January of the next year. So it did give us plenty of replay value. There are still people replaying it today. And if, however, this is true, replay value is something that Batman Arkham Universe, as I'm calling it, will have to have a lot of if Rocksteady truly wants to go out with a bang.
Definitely. The next game that we're going to talk about here, I have to be honest, I was talking to Jake, told me about this game, and I'm like, how are we going to talk about this game? Nobody's going to be thinking about this game. And lo and behold, last night at about midnight Eastern Standard Time, so this was Tuesday night, Kenny Omega and Being the Elite's Twitch channel goes live with Super Mario Party. So I just thought it was hilarious. I was so caught off guard. And after seeing that, I'm like, you know what? Okay, I was definitely wrong. We'll definitely have to insert this into this week's episode. I'm glad it was delayed for a day or two. It was hilarious watching them. Any of you guys that follow Being the Elite on Twitch, their video is probably still up. Usually they have their videos up where you can go through and recapture them without having to be subscribed, but don't quote me on that. But it was just funny seeing them play on there. And it actually made me like, you know what? I haven't played a Mario Party game in a long time. Now I want to go get a Switch and play Mario Party.
See, one thing that I just look at whenever it comes to a Mario Party game, lately they have not been that good, in my opinion, because the way that the old ones started out, and I would say up to the 6th, which is actually my personal favorite of the bunch, the way that the old ones, 1 through 6, started out was, long turns, detailed board. Well, not long, but lengthy, more than a minute. The turns were lengthy. The board had gimmicks. And, sorry, I mixed that up a little bit. Sorry. The turns were quick, and, they weren't, all taking the span of 5 minutes like some of the later games. They were quick, maybe a gimmick here or there, but they had 4 quick turns and then a minigame. Well thought out minigame that actually, made you want to go back in a separate mode and replay it, and that's what I liked. However, when the 7th installment came, and pretty much everything past that, they flipped the entire system to where the turns were ridiculously long, and all these random events started happening on the board, and the minigames were little throwaway things that you really didn't go back and care for. So I'm hoping that with this, they can flip the system around. From what I've seen of the minigames so far, they look to be a lot more well-polished and well-developed. So, like Clem said, I do not actually own a Switch at the moment now, but this, as well as another game coming out in December that's also Mario-related, I'll let you guys take from that what you will. But
you don't have to beat around the bush. It's the Ultimate Smash Brothers, right?
Yes, it is. I wanted to be vague, but what the heck.
No point being vague. So yeah, that one definitely looks like that'll be fun too. Another game that's currently out now, the WWE 2K19. We haven't got to play it yet. Go and check it out. If anyone is interested in seeing this being streamed or YouTube content, maybe on Twitch or something, let us know. If we've got some interest in there, we'll go out there, we'll pick up the game, we'll do some blind plays through, see if maybe we can even build some Bullet Club members in there, create our own, do work with some of the creator character. We're definitely looking for some different things that we can do with some content.
Fun fact.
Whether that be here on the podcast, whether it be streaming live on Twitch, or whether it be on YouTube.
Fun fact.
So
on the wrestling games, actually, we haven't, neither of us have really played a wrestling game in quite some time, but one thing that we used to do with them, can't remember exactly what game it was, but we would go into the custom creator section and create like a bunch of, we would create a bunch of comic superheroes. Like we made skins for Batman, Superman, the whole yards. It was the most hilarious thing to see Superman throwing down with people like CM Punk in the ring. It was hilarious.
It definitely was. But, talking about this and how we just brought up, just made me think. So look, this coming week on Twitter, at the Fake Jake 2. So you can find us on Twitter at the Fake Jake 2. I'm going to put up a poll to see the next game you guys would like to see a walkthrough or some streaming of. And then whatever feedback we get through there is one of the next games that we'll look at putting into our rotation. The cat is telling you, hey, actually, he really wants to get out of here. So we're going to take a cue from him, and we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Four Corners Podcast. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about the show. We're found on Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, just by searching the Four Corners. You know what? You can even enable us on Alexa. Go to Alexa and say, enable any pod, and then say, play the Four Corners Podcast. You'll be able to be played right there. So, Jake, where can everybody find you out online?
All right, let's see. I just took a big glass of water, so hopefully now I can speak without any problem. Let's see. You can find me at thefakejake.com, or if you want to go to one of the platforms individually, youtube.com/thefakejake, Twitter at thefakejake2, Twitch at thefakejake1, and also my website if you want to go to any of them and to find the platforms easier. You can just simply search www.thefakejake.com to find the platforms easier.
Exactly. We look forward to your feedback, guys, and your comments. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next. Let us know what you liked about this episode. Do you like the deep dive into a subject? Do you like just the preview? Would you just like me to, berate Jake the whole 2 hours? I'm not going to do it. We're not even on here for 2 hours. But anyway, what would you like to hear? You guys are the ones listening to us. We want to put out something that you guys are interested in and that you're going to love to hear. And we look forward to hearing from you. Okay, guys, so we're going to get out of here today.
He's the Fake Jake.
And we'll see you next time. How do we end this?
Bye.
That's right. Bye, guys.